cop kicked a blind girl on a rainy city street. He didn't see her, but he also didn't see Serena Williams rushing toward him, ready to make sure justice was served. The rain poured relentlessly, turning the city streets into mirrors of flickering neon signs and wet asphalt. The hum of traffic and the occasional siren created a low, constant buzz, almost like the city itself was holding its breath. A young blind girl walked carefully along the sidewalk, her white cane tapping in a precise rhythm that echoed in the night. She hummed a soft tune, a melody that seemed to shield her from the chaos surrounding her. But in one instant, the rhythm of her world was shattered. A police officer, rushing past, misjudged the space between them, and his boot connected with her leg. She toppled to the slick pavement, her cane sliding out of reach, and a sharp cry of pain tore through the rainy night. The sound seemed to freeze everything. The falling raindrops, the passing cars, even the distant chatter of pedestrians, as the city realized for one suspended moment that something profoundly wrong had just happened. From across the street, Serena Williams stopped in her tracks. She had been leaving a late-night charity event, her mind still buzzing with thoughts of the day's tennis matches and public appearances, when she noticed the commotion. Her instincts, honed over years of professional sports, kicked in immediately. Without hesitation, she sprinted across the wet street, the rain soaking her hair and clothes, yet not slowing her determination. The officer, startled by the sudden presence of the world-famous athlete, froze mid-step. Serena's eyes locked onto him, and her voice rang out, sharp and commanding, cutting through the storm. "What do you think you're doing?" The sound carried authority, a moral gravity that made it impossible for him to ignore what he had just done. On the wet pavement, the girl felt the cold bite of rain on her skin, the sting of pain in her leg, and the overwhelming fear that she might be completely alone in the chaos. Then a firm hand steadied her, and a calm, powerful voice whispered, "You're okay. I've got you." Serena knelt beside her, radiating a protective energy that felt larger than life. For the first time since the incident, the girl felt safe, her fear beginning to dissolve into awe and relief. She could sense Serena's presence, not just with her hands, but with an almost palpable force of authority and compassion. In that moment, the girl realized that even when the world seemed indifferent, there were people willing to stand up for what was right, and to act immediately without hesitation. The officer stumbled backward, the weight of his mistake crashing down on him like the rain itself. All the rules, all the protocols he had memorized, suddenly felt meaningless. Authority without awareness was hollow, and for the first time, he felt the crushing burden of moral responsibility. His gaze flickered between the girl and Serena, and the enormity of the situation became clear. He could not dismiss this as a simple accident. The bystanders' eyes, the cameras on phones, the intensity in Serena's stance, it all confronted him with the truth he had been ignoring for too long. In that moment, the badge on his chest felt like lead, a constant reminder that power without empathy could harm those who depended on society to protect them. Wordlessly, a crowd had begun to gather, drawn by instinct, curiosity, or a sense of civic duty. Their voices, initially hushed, grew louder, forming a chorus of accountability that amplified the tension of the moment. Some recorded the scene on their phones, some shouted instructions, and others simply watched, stunned by the surreal confrontation unfolding in the rain. Serena stood as a shield, both literally and metaphorically, protecting the girl and ensuring that no further harm would come. The officer, surrounded and scrutinized, could no longer hide behind authority alone. In the faces of those watching, he saw judgment, disappointment, and an unwavering expectation for responsibility. This was not merely a street incident. It had become a lesson in accountability witnessed by an entire community. Serena crouched closer to the girl, scanning her for injuries. "Are you hurt anywhere else?" she asked softly, her tone commanding but gentle. The girl shook her head, tears streaking her rain-soaked cheeks. Serena's sharp eyes, trained for precision and rapid assessment on the tennis court, missed nothing. The girl's ankle twisted awkwardly, her jacket soaked, and her confidence momentarily shattered. Turning back to the officer, Serena's voice hardened. "You will answer for this," she said, every word deliberate, every syllable loaded with authority. The rain made the moment feel almost cinematic. The cityscape blurred around them, but Serena's presence was a steady, unyielding focus. People in the crowd began to take sides, some defending the girl, others urging calm, but all were caught in the magnetic pull of the moral drama unfolding in front of them. The officer's mind raced, a storm of excuses, guilt, and denial battling for dominance. He wanted to claim it was an accident, to retreat behind procedure and protocol, but the truth pressed in relentlessly. His boots, soaked and slipping slightly on the wet asphalt, felt heavy. His badge, once a symbol of pride and authority, suddenly seemed like a brand marking him as careless, thoughtless, and dangerous. For the first time, he questioned not just this single moment, but every decision that had brought him to this point. Serena's gaze, unwavering and piercing, left no room for argument. She wasn't asking for explanations. She demanded accountability, and the officer could feel the moral weight of every misstep in his career pressing down on him like the relentless rain. As the crowd swelled, some bystanders raised their phones, live streaming the incident to social media. Within minutes, the footage would spread across the city, igniting conversations about police conduct, responsibility, and the safety of the vulnerable. Comments, hashtags, and shares would erupt online, but for those standing in the rain-soaked street, the consequences were immediate and visceral. Every word spoken, every gesture made, carried weight. Serena was more than a witness. She was a catalyst for action. Her presence reminded the officer, and everyone watching, that actions have consequences, and in a world where every movement can be recorded and scrutinized, accountability was no longer optional. Serena turned fully to the girl now, positioning herself between her and the officer. "Stay close to me," she instructed, guiding her gently to a small awning nearby where the rain pooled less heavily. The girl's hand gripped Serena's jacket instinctively, finding security in the towering figure. In this moment, Serena became more than a protector. She was a symbol of unwavering moral courage. The girl's fear began to ease, replaced by a growing sense of resilience. She realized that she was no longer alone, that even in a world capable of thoughtless cruelty, there were people willing to intervene, willing to ensure she remained safe and seen. The officer's gaze darted nervously between the girl and Serena, then to the growing crowd. He had trained for high-stakes situations, for chaos, for confrontations, but never for this. Standing in the rain, exposed, morally vulnerable, with the world silently judging every movement. His mouth opened, searching for words, but Serena's piercing eyes silenced him. The rain washed over him, cold and relentless, a physical echo of the weight of responsibility pressing down. He realized that no procedure, no badge, no authority could undo what had been done. The girl had been harmed, and he could not hide behind uniforms or excuses. For the first time in years, the illusion of control slipped entirely, leaving him raw, exposed, and accountable. The crowd, emboldened by Serena's intervention, began to speak. A young man with a backpack shouted, "She's blind. How could you not see her?" While an older woman, voice trembling with righteous anger, added, "Look at her. She's a child." The bystanders' words were no longer mere commentary. They were a chorus demanding recognition of truth. Phones recorded every detail, capturing the officer's hesitation, the girl's trembling hands, and Serena's unwavering stance. Even the rain seemed to amplify the voices, turning the street into a stage where morality, courage, and consequence were playing out in real time. Every second passed like an eternity, and the officer could feel the undeniable power of public accountability pressing against him from every side. Serena stepped forward, positioning herself squarely in front of the officer. "You need to understand this," she said, voice low but electric with authority. "You hurt someone defenseless. You acted without awareness. And now, because of your carelessness, you're going to face the consequences. There was no room for argument, no place for denial. Serena's presence turned the street into a moral arena. Her fame was irrelevant here. What mattered was action, responsibility, and courage. The officer's shoulders slumped, and he finally spoke, his voice small, almost inaudible over the rain. I didn't see her. Serena's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in icy insistence. Exactly, and that's why you need to pay attention. Every action matters, especially when lives are at stake. The girl, still trembling, felt Serena's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. The storm outside mirrored the storm within her, but the warmth of Serena's presence began to cut through her fear. I'm okay, she whispered, her voice shaky but gaining strength. Serena smiled gently. You're stronger than you think, she said, and you don't have to face anything alone. The girl gripped Serena's jacket, not just for balance, but for reassurance, realizing that courage could exist even in the face of fear, and that someone with authority could also embody protection and empathy. In that moment, the girl felt a seed of empowerment, an understanding that even when people fail, allies can appear, and justice can be immediate and personal. The sound of approaching sirens heralded the arrival of additional police units, but the atmosphere had already shifted. This was no longer a routine incident. The officer was now a figure under scrutiny, held accountable by witnesses, the public, and one of the most influential athletes in the world. The officers arriving on scene were met with tense silence, the weight of the unfolding story pressing down on them as well. Phones continued to record, the footage destined to circulate widely, amplifying both outrage and the call for responsibility. Every step the arriving officers took toward the scene seemed to echo with the unspoken demand. Actions have consequences, and accountability cannot be avoided. Serena crouched beside the girl again, checking her for injuries with meticulous care. Are you hurt anywhere else? Can you move comfortably? She asked, her tone professional yet nurturing, a blend of an athlete's focus and a protector's empathy. The girl shook her head, and Serena guided her to a dry spot under the awning. She made sure the girl felt safe before even glancing back at the officer, letting him know without words that she was in control. Serena's presence was a shield, a line that the officer could not cross without consequence, and the girl could sense the moral force surrounding her, an invisible but unbreakable wall of protection. The officer finally dropped his gaze, the weight of his actions pressing heavily on him. He could no longer rely on authority or training to excuse a careless, harmful act. The faces of the witnesses, the unblinking gaze of Serena Williams, and the fragile trust of the girl created a crucible of accountability. For the first time, he experienced what it meant to be powerless in the face of moral truth. Every instinct to deflect or minimize the situation failed him. He was forced to confront the reality that actions, even unintended ones, carry consequences, and that no badge or rank could absolve him of the harm he caused. The girl, steadying herself with Serena's guidance, looked up at the officer with eyes that held both fear and quiet strength. The crowd had grown silent, waiting to see what would happen next. Serena's presence remained unwavering, a beacon of moral certainty in the rain-soaked chaos. The officer, now fully aware of the accountability surrounding him, began to comprehend that this incident would not fade quietly. It would be remembered, witnessed, and recorded. Justice, Serena made clear without words, would not be delayed. And in that tense, electric moment, the rain seemed to pause, holding the city in suspense, as morality and consequence converged in a single, unbroken scene.